Welcome to my humble tavern, Summoner. Today we will delve into the deepest and most tragic stories in the League of Legends universe. The tale of two winged sisters, Kayle and Morgana, whose path diverged because of their opposing ideals of justice and mercy. Their conflict, which began at the dawn of Demacia, still echoes throughout the kingdom, influencing its laws, culture, and even the events depicted in the games such as the Mage Seeker. Get ready for a grand lore journey that will unveil the full extent of their complicated relationship and its impact on the world of Runeterra. The story of Kayle and Morgana begins far from Demacia on the mystical Mount Targon. Their parents, Mihira and Kilam, were mere mortals who undertook the perilous climb to the peak seeking a power that could save their tribe from the horrors of the Rune Wars. At the summit, Mihira was chosen as the divine vessel for the aspect of justice, gaining a sword that shone brighter than the sun and unimaginable might. Shortly thereafter, their twin daughters were born, the fair-haired Kayle arriving a few heartbeats earlier and the dark-haired Morgana. However, Mihira's newfound divinity began to eclipse her humanity, driving her into endless battle and leaving her daughters in Kilam's care. Frightened by his wife's growing power and by the threats of jealous mages, Kilam fled with the girls to safeguard them. They settled in a remote village that would later become Demacia, a place believed to be free of magic, where the very earth possessed anti-magic properties. In this new home, the sisters developed completely different temperaments. Kayle, wise beyond her years, studied the nascent settlement's laws, convinced that only strict rules could shield people from the chaos she perceived in the wider world. She remembered little of her mother's divinity, yet she believed Mihira had saved them by ending the Rune Wars. Morgana, by contrast, was much more empathetic. She was troubled by the villagers' distrust of newcomers and often wandered the wilds, speaking with those cast out for their magic or simply for being feared. She saw her father's sorrow at having left Mihira and gradually blamed her mother for his grief, sowing the first seeds of divergence in the sisters' worldviews. Their fate changed when a flaming sword fell from the sky and split in two. That was their mother's blade. Kayle seized her haft without hesitation and radiant wings unfurled behind her. Morgana cautiously followed suit and wings blossomed on her as well, though they were shadowed unlike her sisters. For Kayle, this was a sign that their mother lived and was calling them to follow her path. While Kayle embraced the new duty with zeal, gathering the Judicator order to uphold the law, Morgana was more reserved, feeling the weight of her powers. With their divine powers, Kayle and Morgana became cornerstones of the nascent Demacia. Under their guardianship, the small settlement swiftly grew into a formidable kingdom whose walls were hewn from petricite, a stone capable of absorbing magic. This material became a symbol of Demacia, a refuge from the instability and devastation magic wrought elsewhere on Runeterra. Kayle, radiant and majestic, took command of the army forming beneath her wings. Her divine justice was merciless toward anyone who threatened the young kingdom. She led warriors against monsters, wild beasts, and wandering mages who might pose a danger. Her reputation as an unyielding defender grew daily, and she soon became a revered emblem of strength and order. To Kayle, peace and stability could be achieved only through absolute obedience to the law without exceptions or compromise. She established the Judicator Order, an elite cader who would act as her hands, enforcing her vision of justice. These Judicators, clad in gleaming armor and bearing pitiless gazes, set about eradicating every trace of chaos and disobedience. Morgana, though she fought beside Kayle in great battles, grew increasingly troubled by her sister's methods. She saw that Kayle's severity bordered on cruelty. Morgana could not accept that any breach of the law, no matter how small, deserved punishment without mercy. She saw fear in the eyes of those banished for minor offenses or born with uncontrolled magic. Morgana believed that real strength lay not in blind obedience but in compassion and the willingness to forgive. Thus, at the dawn of Demacia, while one winged angel erected walls of order, the other wove nets of compassion, and these two forces, initially complementary, inevitably drifted toward conflict. During this formative era, when the sisters stood together, a threat arrived that revealed the true extent of their power and unity. Aatrox himself descended upon Demacia, one of the most terrifying Darkin. Ancient Shuriman ascended warriors twisted into living weapons of destruction. Aatrox did not arrive in Demacia by accident. He was searching for the Darkin weapons, ancient artifacts that imprisoned his kind, including Rast, His arrival became sort of a harbinger of incredible destruction. Kayle and Morgana, despite their growing differences, joined forces to confront this colossal threat. In direct physical combat, even the combined forces of the winged defenders could not completely defeat Aatrox. His thirst for blood and mastery of the blade were too great. However, Morgana, using her unique power, was able to bind Aatrox. The dark binding energies she normally used for protection and healing turned against Darkin, holding him immobile. This moment allowed Kayle to deliver the decisive blow. Using Morgana's blade, Kayle unleashed a righteous flame upon Aatrox and his legions, bringing about not only his destruction but also sealing him. Aatrox was defeated and locked within his own blade, the very weapon he now uses as a vessel. This victory was one of the sisters' greatest achievements, proving that together they were unbeatable, even in the face of ancient evil. However, despite this shared triumph, the seeds of discord had already been sown. The battle with Aatrox, while showcasing their strength, also underscored the differences in their methods. Kayle saw the outcome as proof of the need for merciless justice capable of eradicating evil. Morgana, on the other hand, felt the bitterness of wielding such destructive power, even against an enemy like Aatrox. This clash was one of the last great joint actions of the sisters before their paths diverged for good. The divergence between Kayle and Morgana reached its peak when Kayle's ideals bordered on fanaticism. Her apprentice, Ronan, was the most ardent follower of her strict principles. He could not accept the fact that Morgana offered shelter and protection to those Kayle deemed guilty. In an attempt to stop Morgana's so-called heresy, Ronan tried to imprison her. In response, Morgana, seeking to defend her followers and herself, bound him with dark flames, leading to his tragic death. Ronan's death was the spark that ignited Demacia. Blinded by grief and rage, Kayle unleashed her fury on the city she believed mired in sin and chaos. She called down divine fire from the heavens to purify Demacia of its corruption. Morgana, unwilling to let innocence suffer under her sister's ruthless justice, met Kayle in the skies. The blows of their divine blades and bursts of magic reduced buildings to rubble. In the heat of their duel, their father Kayle intervened, trying to stop his daughters. He was mortally wounded in the struggle. His dying cry halted the combatants, forcing them to confront the terrible cost of their enmity. Kayle, overcome with grief at the realization that a quest for justice had caused her father's death, flew into the sky and did not look back. Morgana, left alone among the ruins in Kayle's body, felt only bitterness and betrayal. Her wings, once symbols of strength, became reminders of unbearable pain. This conflict not only shattered their family but also forever changed Demacia, laying the foundation for its distrust of magic and its harsh laws. The consequences of that battle echo to this day. After that fateful event, Demacia was left without its winged defenders, yet their divided legacy continued to shape the kingdom's destiny. Their absence proved as influential as their presence. Kayle ascended Mount Targon, seeking absolute justice free from emotion and mortal weakness. She strives to be a pure, impartial judge whose verdicts are infallible. Many believe she still resides atop Targon, refining her divine essence while watching over Runeterra. Her departure strengthened her image in Demacia as the embodiment of unyielding law and strict order. Her principles underpin Demacian society, harsh, uncompromising laws that prize safety and stability above all. In the wake of Kayle's exit and fear of the magic that led to Kayle's death, the ideology of the Mage Seeker flourished. Seeing themselves as heirs to her pure justice, they view any magic as a threat and justify the harshest measures against its wielders. For many Demacians, Kayle is an ideal to emulate, a paragon of honor and duty, though they remain unaware of the tragedy behind the image. Morgana, consumed by guilt and grief, remained in the mortal realm. She voluntarily bound her shining wings with heavy chains, renouncing her divinity as penance for her failures and as a reminder of the powers she could not control. Morgana became the Veiled Lady, living among outcasts and the oppressed. No longer armored or battling as a winged defender, she now acts as an unseen guardian to those Demacia rejects or condemns. Her creed is compassion that offers a path to redemption. She believes even the most wayward soul can change if given the chance. Morgana uses her dark yet healing magic to ease suffering and guide the lost. To most Demacians, she is a whispered legend, but to those seeking mercy, Morgana is their final hope. She despises the cruelty and fanaticism engulfing Demacia, especially the Mage Seekers, who in her eyes merely repeat Kayle's mistakes in an even harsher guise. Thus, Demacia grew up in the shadow of the conflict between the sisters. Its laws, culture, and eternal struggle against magic are direct consequences of the catastrophe that separated Kayle and Morgana. And although the sisters now stand worlds apart, their opposing ideals live on, shaping the souls and destinies of Demacia's people. In recent years, as the curtain between lore and gameplay grows ever thinner, the story of Kayle and Morgana has found a deeper dimension in the Mage Seeker, a League of Legends story. This game not only explores the consequences of their ancient conflict, but also raises hard questions about the nature of justice in Demacia, tying everything back to the sisters' original ideals. The events of the Mage Seeker revolve around Silas, a rebellious mage who, after escaping the Mage Seeker's prison, sparks a revolt to free Demacia's mages from oppression. In this context, the clash between Kayle and Morgana is stark, because their philosophies underpin everything happening in the kingdom. Although Kayle never appears in the Mage Seeker, her influence permeates every law and every action of the Mage Seekers. They are the direct, albeit twisted, legacy of her quest for absolute order. With ruthless methods of suppressing magic and a fanatical belief in purification, they act exactly as Kayle might in her most uncompromising form, judging not by deeds but by the mere fact of possessing magic. Morgana, by contrast, plays a pivotal role in the Mage Seeker. She mentors and aids Silas, though she disapproves of his most extreme tactics. Morgana reveals Demacia's tragic origins, a kingdom founded on fear of magic, even though its founders once wielded it. She recounts her family history and the rift with Kayle, showing how a refuge became a prison for those who are different. Morgana sees Silas's uprising not merely as rebellion, but as a desperate fight for survival and justice. She knows Demacia is, so to say, broken and needs radical change. Her compassion shines through both her aid to the mages and her resistance to Mage Seeker tyranny, which she views as an even more hideous echo of Kayle's mistakes. Thus, the Mage Seeker not only expands Kayle and Morgana's lore, but also offers a stark commentary on their legacy. The game illustrates how an ancient family tragedy can seed systemic oppression, and how the echoes of two opposing ideals can still shake an entire kingdom, pushing it toward collapse. The tale of Kayle and Morgana personifies the eternal dilemma of justice. Demacia, built as a bastion of order, proves that noble intentions can devolve into tyranny when compassion is lost. Kayle, symbol of uncompromising law, ascended and left behind a system that now oppresses in the name of protection. Morgana, bound by grief, remained among mortals, becoming a voice of empathy and hope for redemption. Will they ever reconcile, or would their reunion only bring further destruction? We don't know. The lore of Kayle and Morgana continues to evolve, but for now these questions remain unanswered. Thank you guys for joining me on this journey through the rich world of League of Legends lore. Until next time, and may we meet again over a mug of the finest ale in all of Runeterra.